Hello my fellow pilots, and welcome again to another episode of Star Citizen FM, episode 29. Star Citizen FM is a fan-run podcast, or YouTube show, run by yours truly, Dr. Hawk, as I try to go over the happenings in the CIG universe, the community, and in the verse. So before we start off, I'd like to start with a personal announcement, as previously I had mentioned to you guys that I had a surprise. Right? You guys like surprises, right?
There will be no such surprises.
Okay, I'm lying a little bit. There will be surprises in the future, but first, good news and bad news. And let's start with the good news first, because if I start with the bad news, it doesn't make any sense. So if you see the above pictures, or if you saw them in chat roll or forum, I finally got myself my birthday gift. After dropping $4,500 on a computer, I built it myself, painstakingly kissed it, loved it, hugged it, whatever I needed to do, and I now have my very own first desktop. I do not lie, this is the first desktop I have owned legitimately by myself. And no more laptops. Yay. But this correlates into bad news. Upon having fun with it and playing around with it for a little bit, around maybe 2 or so hours after playing with it, I got blue screens of death. Stop 124. So all the surprises I had loaded onto the machine already, and I don't want to ruin them yet because I think this will become part of Star Citizen FM in a big way. They won't work. I needed the bigger computer to do this. So yeah, sorry guys. It is at the shop, it's getting checked out. I got the big old warranty package and everything, and as far as the tech said, they will go through as many Titans as they have to figure out what's going wrong, because apparently the one I have is defect or bad or something, which is kind of upsetting. You think you dropped $1,000 on something, it better work. So enough about me. I hope you guys can wait. I have some fun stuff in store for you guys. I figure it'll spice up the show and make things quite fun and interesting, and it'll give me something to work on. But in the meantime, we're stuck with another laptop podcast. Oh, I can't even do that voice again. So let us move on to what's happening in the Star Citizen universe. So the first thing to note is package changes, and what I mean by this is to anyone that had been anticipating a interview with Chris Roberts, or maybe a half day with Chris Roberts, you won't be getting that anymore. Unfortunately, the reason for this is that they're trying to now actually get Chris to work on the game. To anyone that I believe got the package before July 31st, you will be getting your time with Chris. But anyone that gets a package after July 31st, you will be getting different rewards. So for the High Admiral, so if you pledged $1,100, the 30-minute conference call is now an Aurora LX, Origin 350R, and a full set of 9 campaign skins. If you pledge $2,500 or above, you're a Grad Admiral, the 1-hour conference call is now a complete set of 5 limited variant pledge ships, an Aurora LX, an Origin 350R, and one yet-to-be-announced version of each of the Freelancer, Hornet, and Constellation. And if you're a Space Marshal, and you've pledged $5,000 or above, and I know a lot of you have, the half day with Chris Roberts is now an Idris P. Corvette. Now, a lot of you are probably maybe pissed off, or are pissed off, and this is understandably so, but Chris has been running around like a chicken with his head cut off, and if they can rein him in and they need him to work, then I actually see no issue with this. We want Star Citizen to be the best game it can be, so if that's what needs to happen, I really don't see what the issue is here, because, you know, later down the road, time might open up, and we might be able to talk to Chris again. Plus, he always pops in on Wingman's Hangar every once in a while and answers some of the fan questions, so it's not a huge loss. I'm pretty sure if it is, you can take it up with Sandy, but to those of you who have already pledged, I don't think you'll be impacted too hardly. Although, there is an alternative, though, if you're interested in attending a Chris Roberts talk. The Computer and Communications chapter of the IEEE, lots of E's, San Fernando Valley section, Ask Chris Roberts to attend an upcoming event. The event takes place on July 30th from 6 to 9 p.m. in Los Angeles. So if you're able to be there for a Q&A session with Mr. Chris Roberts, you can do so, although I do believe you have to RSVP. And by the time that I'm doing this, you'll have to do it as soon as possible if they have not already closed it. So if you missed out on a chance to talk to Chris with one of your pledge packages, but maybe you're around Los Angeles and you can attend this sounds like a good alternative for you. And even then, if you're unable to attend in person, there will be a live stream as well. So not all hope is lost. Next up is an interview with Justin Binford. He has jumped on with the customer support team, and he's also putting together the QA process for Star Citizen. You can actually view an interview with him with Wingman for the latest episode of Wingman's Hangar, episode 30. There's also an interview with Sandy Gardner if you're interested. Be sure to check it out. Both are interesting interviews, and Justin himself is an A-class guy. So if you've had to have some help recently from customer support, I pretty much guarantee you he's had his hand in it. And knowing that CIG gets a lot of emails constantly, let's give Justin, Sandy, and all those guys a little slow golf clap here, because I think they go through a lot of emails, a lot of work, and they deal with, I think, the uglier side of us when we're upset and we need issues resolved right now. Which, rightly so. That mention, though, however, brings up another thing to bring up. There is a package resale policy that has been clarified, so to speak. To those of you that aren't already aware, there are a few people out there that are buying and selling packages for Star Citizen. This may be within the RSI community forums, on Kijiji, eBay, Spacebucks, AstroTurf, wherever the hell they are selling or buying it. This is not supposed to be something we're doing anymore on the RSI site. The main focus of this has been pretty much the LTI. Most ships that are being sold or bought are LTI ships, as a lot of people really want the lifetime insurance policy. And I actually am wondering if you guys over at CIG are kicking yourselves in the feet now for LTI, since this seems to be such a big issue. Topic for a different day. The fact of the matter is, if there are any looking for buying, for trade, for sale, or want to buy posts on the RSI forums, they will be closing them, and they will also earn them warnings and possibly even forum bans. So if you don't want to get the ban hammer from Benjamin or Zane or anybody, or even Wingman himself, who's been known to ban a few people, don't be operating your services on the RSI website. As to say on eBay or Kijiji or any of those places, well, I guess we have no jurisdiction there, but do we really need to be selling LTI ships? Is it really that big of a deal? I really don't think the in-game insurance is going to be that bad that we all have to have LTI right out of the door. But who knows? Maybe they'll undercut you or have a really crappy insurance policy. We won't know until the game releases. Next up is the Gamescom event that Star Citizen will be attending. Unfortunately, registration for this event is already full. All 1,000 people are already there, so wow. For those of us who can't make it, we will have to deal with the live stream, and to those of us who are going, and there's a few people I know who are going, have fun. I know Pleasure will be there, a certain Feather will be there, there's going to be a few faces from Chatwell. We'll finally get to see Eric, Wingman, everyone will be there. Or, well, not everyone part of the team, but this should be a fun thing to see. And to those of you who are going, be sure to take lots of pictures for us, lots of video, because I envy you. I would want to go to Germany, and I spent that all on the computer instead. But until next time, I will try to make my presence at CitizenCon on October 11th, if that is still a go. So, Gamescom, be prepared for that. Should be fun. Well, that pretty much wraps up everything I had planned to go over. There is one more thing, though, that I would like to read over that I think you guys might enjoy. This was done by a fan, who can be found over on his DeviantArt page as EL Protection, and is known as Protection. So if you see him in chat roll or on the forums, give this guy a pat on the back, because what follows I think is pretty awesome. In the bleak and terrible space year of 2013.
There, the last of the space simulators. Lock weapons and prepare to destroy. We can make a new Call of Duty from their ashes. Soon, the whole jungle will be more. They lack accessibility. No one will care if they live or die. Oh no! Someone help us! Mercy! Guys, I'm just a mod.
The AAA game producers had finally come to eliminate the space sims, once and for all.
The space sim genre was once remarkable. Don't do it!
I was promised sequels, damn you!
Aging heroes begged for mercy. Just let us live, please, I beg you. The producers showed none.
Prepare yourselves for extinction!
It was then, in the space sim's darkest hour, that he re-emerged from his long absence.
Weapons locked on target. Fire!
Pew pew!
What?
It's Chris Roberts, returned from the distant and mysterious planet Hollywood to save the space sims and PC gaming as we know it from the producers.
No! It can't be! It can't be!
Fire more money! Launch all additional DRMs and cash stores! Convert as many free-to-plays into pay-to-wins as you can! No effect! His crowdfunding is too strong!
And he was not alone. Hundreds, then thousands, then hundreds of thousands came to the rallying cry. The promise of a better future. The promise.
What do we do now, sir? We die.
Pew pew!
Of Star Citizen.
Chris, you saved us! You saved all of PC gaming! But what happens now?
Dreams. Dreams happen now. Okay, well, maybe it doesn't exactly go like that. Maybe more in my head. And maybe my head needs to work on sound options and better sound effects, etc. But yeah, that's a little comic by EL Protection, so give the man a pat on the back, because that certainly made me smile, and I'm pretty sure it's already been around the forums and chat roll. I just felt like doing something silly for it. So that wraps up everything I had planned for today in this episode. I have one more little thing coming up. So, as mentioned, everyone, I did have a big surprise planned earlier, but with my computer deciding to crap out on me on the last moment, I do hope an interview will suffice. Some of you may know this gentleman. He's been around the chat roll as well as the forums. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you guys to Antan Carmola.
Greetings.
How you doing today, Antan? Thanks for stopping by and talking with me today.
That's quite alright.
Yeah, as I mentioned, things kind of exploded at home here, so I'm a little upset. But at the same time, I think we can make up for this with some little work that you've been doing. Although, before we get to that, I'm actually kind of curious. Your name has always sparked an interest in my mind. Do you mind going over that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I came up with it, about 12 years ago, when I joined a guild for Star Wars Galaxies.
Oh, that's a good game.
Yeah, well, it was initially. It got worse from there. And so I was sort of racking my brain to try and come up with a name. And the Antan actually comes from a previous Star Wars game X-Wing Alliance.
I think I did play that one a long time ago.
It's a very old game. And there's a character in that who's the uncle of the main character, and his name's Antan. I mean, the character itself is not very nice. I think he ends up being an Imperial sympathizer or something. But I always liked the name, so when I came to pick a name, that's where that came from. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's a clever name because it stands out in the chat room whenever I see it.
Yeah, I quite like it. It's short and it's relatively easy to pronounce. So, one thing I found with Star Wars names was that they take a fairly common name and then adjust one or two letters. So Antan is like Anton, except the O is changed for an A.
Fair enough.
But that also means, because Antan is not a common name, when you have to log into a game like Star Wars Galaxies and you need a unique name, invariably Antan is unique. I haven't had any conflicts yet, so that was quite useful.
Well, upon seeing you though, you've been in the chat room in the community for quite a while now, and one thing that stood out as of late, I think that you sent me and a few other people's, you've started drawing a little bit for Star Citizen, is this correct?
Yeah, that originally came about several months ago. I saw lots of people starting to sort of share various creative things that they've done. And there was a guy in chat roll at the time, I think his name was Ninja, and he showed off some ship drawings that he'd done. And you had Exile, of course, who has done a number of characters.
I've had Exile on here before.
Yeah. And his drawings are very good. And then there was also when Wingman was encouraging people to start doing videos for questions and that sort of thing, and you had Legante come in and basically throw down the gauntlet and say, here, I've done something creative, you go away and do something creative yourself. So I was wondering what I could do. I had a few ideas. I've been playing around with 3D modelling on Blender.
Very nice.
And I had a couple of ideas for ships that I wanted to do, but I never really got round to that. And so one of the other things I've been doing is sort of drawing characters. Usually I don't sort of start from scratch and come up with something completely unique, because to be honest I'm not very good at drawing from nothing. So I usually take a reference and start off trying to replicate it, but then once I've got the basis there, sort of add my own little touches. So the drawing that I've been showing off in chat, I started off with an image of Paladin from Wing Commander 2, because I particularly like that image, and as you probably noticed, I've been using it as my avatar in the forums. And I suppose another incentive there was I wanted eventually to have a sort of unique avatar, so starting off with that and coming up with my own version seemed like a good idea. So that's sort of where that came from. And my challenge originally was, at the time we had the sort of dev chats on the chat roll, and we had Adam Paul come in last thing on the Friday.
Right.
And I sort of set myself a challenge each week that I would have something new added to the drawing so that I could show it off to Adam each week. And he would invariably look at it and give encouraging comments. And that sort of gave me the motivation to carry on for the next week, and so on. And that all worked fine until we get a point several weeks in where somebody decided to come in and impersonate me on the chat roll.
Oh no.
Which was quite interesting, because of course I was there at the time, so there was me and there was somebody impersonating me, and we were both showing off the same drawing, which I had uploaded earlier that evening. So that was very funny and quite spooky at the same time. And from that point I decided that it's probably best not to upload it each week, and I've just carried on until I've come up with something that is sort of complete. Yeah, so I decided not to upload it onto the chat anymore, and I carried on working on it without showing it to anybody until it got to a state where it was sort of complete, but I still need to work on it, but I've sort of run out of free time at the moment, so I thought, well, I'll put it together in a video and upload it to YouTube so that I can show people how it sort of progressed over the last several weeks.
Well, we are always our own worst critic, no?
Yeah, I was very worried about putting it up, actually, because well, you always sort of worry that people are going to be sort of slating it and very critical of it.
Well, hey, I went through the same growing pains with Star Citizen FM. All you gotta do is just take that leap. Leap of faith.
Yeah. So I did it eventually. It was quite funny because it was a sort of slow progress over several days where I sort of did one step at once and sort of said, right, shall I actually do this or shall I just leave it? So I sort of initially applied for the YouTube account and then left it a couple of days, and then uploaded and then left it a couple of days, and then eventually go, okay, I'm just gonna go with it and put it on the forum and see what people say.
So, can we expect anything more from you in the future? Like, do you have any other works in progress, or have you been thinking about it now that the response has generally been positive?
I have a couple of ideas. I do want to do some more work on that character drawing, because it's not complete yet. But I think I'll leave it for the time being until I have a bit more time to work on it. But one of the other ideas I've had, and this came up in the drawing thread on the forum, somebody asked if I had considered doing any sort of Star Citizen landscapes, and as it happened, I'd actually been thinking about it with the announcement that they're going to put a 4th Earth city into the game.
Right.
I'm very interested in that being London, mainly because I'm British and I don't live that far from London. And also London's a very interesting place. It's been in existence for about 2,000 years. So it's very likely that it will still be there at the time of Star Citizen. In fact, I seem to recall I had a conversation with Dave Haddock, the writer, and I remember asking him whether about London, whether it was included, and he mentioned that it was included in his serial, The Lost Generation.
Correct. I think it's a Lost Generation.
Yeah. So that was interesting. So we know that it's there. And so I'd like to have the opportunity to visit it in game. And I thought it would be quite fun to, as a sort of campaign for getting London in game, if I try and do some sort of concept art. And I've been thinking how to do this, because as I mentioned earlier, I need a reference to work from.
Right.
I started looking around for aerial photos of London, and I couldn't really find anything that suited. The main problem is that there are not lots of nice landscapes, not landscapes,
Cityscapes?
landmarks.
Oh, landmarks. Okay.
That you want to fit in an image, but if you take the sort of Greater London, it is 26 miles from end to end.
Ooh.
And so you're not going to get everything in one view. So I thought about how I could do this, and one of the ideas I came up with was, I think on Stanton, they
Yes.
did a video of...
I did a read-through of Stanton as well.
Yeah, they did a video of a landing sequence going through the various phases of concept art, from the sort of very high satellite view right down to landing pad. And I thought I could do something like that, because it's fairly easy to get a satellite view of London. You just go to Google Maps or what have you. And I thought I could start off with that view and import that as a texture onto a flat surface into Blender, and then build in 3D models of the various landscapes, landmarks rather. I keep saying landscapes.
It's okay,
I mean
we get it.
And I can build in 3D to scale the various landmarks that I want to capture. And then, because I have those in Blender, I can move the camera around to line up the sort of reference photos that I want for the drawings. And then I can put that at various points. I think I should probably have 3 or 4 different views, and I'll do a sort of animatic in Blender as a sort of very low resolution animation,
Right.
and then stop at the various points where I'm going to do the drawings, and at that point freeze the video and show the progress view of the drawing, as I've done for the paladin character. So starting off from the first outline sketch and going through to a full image, which I should probably try and do in colour. I haven't done much colour work before, so it's something to experiment on.
It should stretch the muscles,
Yeah.
so to speak.
And then when that view is finished, I'll go back to the Blender view and carry on to the next viewpoint and then do it again. And I had this rather curious idea of the last bit being sort of flying down the Thames, and a lot of the landmarks are situated on either side of the Thames, so you could sort of see them passing.
Okay.
And then at the very end, I've had this idea of you've got the Millennium Dome at the very west end of London, east end of London, and so I thought, well, that's a sort of iconic location, and I could turn that into a landing pad.
That would be an interesting idea.
Yeah, that was something that intrigued me. And so that would be the sort of final view of this landing pad Millennium Dome thing. So that's my idea. It's probably quite ambitious, and it might take me several weeks, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, I think it's a very ambitious project, but at the same time, like a lot of the fans around here that have contributed ships or star maps or even music, everyone has their part to add, and I don't think we should shoot your part down any less just because it's a concept. It could all be likely that CIG looks at this and goes, hey, London could be a fun place to go. Or they could already have it planned, you don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the ideas one of the thoughts that I had was that maybe the reason that they haven't actually announced the fourth city yet is that they've still got to do the concept art themselves. Because it seemed to me almost as if it wasn't planned and somebody mentioned it, or somebody started an idea, hey, I want an extra city, and they thought, yeah, let's try that. So it may be a sort of competition of timing between me doing my stuff and CIG doing their concept art for the fourth city. I suspect they'll get there first, because they have a bit more time to work on it.
Well, don't sell yourself short. In the meantime, I was actually kind of curious, is there anything else that you'd be interested to see in Star Citizen and maybe implement yourself, or are you kind of going to take a standoff look with the rest of the stuff and wait and see how it turns out?
I think I'll wait and see. One of the things that I've been sort of campaigning for, particularly early on, I am a Linux user.
Ooh.
So I've been part of the campaign for getting a Linux client for Star Citizen. And judging by various recent comments and the fact that Crytek have been advertising for a Linux programmer, I'm fairly confident that that's in the works, so I'm quite happy. I don't know how far away it is, and I think everybody's sort of gearing up to a point where they can safely make an announcement. But I'm sort of 80% confident that we may have a Linux client in time for launch.
Is that pretty much your only Star Citizen wish?
I think it probably is. Practically everything else I've seen has basically just added to my thinking that this is going to be the game for me. I've been very impressed with everything they've announced. And early on, I had some ideas in that I wanted good customizable ships, and they announced that. I wanted a good economy, and they announced that. And so it's pretty much, as far as I can tell, it's going to be everything that I've been looking for in a space sim. pretty much since I stopped playing the Wing Commanders. So I'm quite pleased.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to share your, experience as well as the ambitious goal that you have for yourself, and pretty much wish all the best to you. I can try to do my part and spread the idea, and hopefully all the viewers here can respect that and spread it along, and I guess all we have to do now is wait and see what you do.
Yeah, I just need to find some time to get down and do it.
So everyone, this has been Antan Carmola, and I am Dr. Hawk, and I'd like to thank you very much again for coming out to talk.
Thank you for having me.
As always, ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed my show, you can click the fuzzy little hawk on the lower left-hand corner to subscribe. If you have any comments, likes, or even complaints, feel free to voice them in the video below or in the forums. I produce my show every Sunday, or at least try to, and I will see you guys next week on Star Citizen FM. You guys take care and fly safe.